Welcome to another episode of Ask the Experts. In this series, I ask questions to leading experts in the field of health and nutrition. I had the pleasure to talk to Dr. Joel Fuhrman, six-time New York Times best-selling author and internationally recognized expert on nutrition and natural healing, who specializes in preventing and reversing disease through nutritional methods. He has coined the term nutritarian to describe a nutrient-dense eating style designed to prevent cancers, slow aging, and extend lifespan. In this first of 6 episodes, I asked Dr. Fuhrman about the current US healthcare system and our epidemic of chronic non-infectious diseases. Dr. Fuhrman, what are the reasons underlying the paradox of the US epidemic in chronic non-infectious diseases like metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, and neurodegenerative brain disorders such as Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and the record overall healthcare expenditures in the US?
Well, we're talking about how we developed our eating style and how drugs became the answer to the medical profession, directed their focus on medications, which are poisons to solve the problems of toxemia in a bad diet. I mean, this has been going on since, no Civil War, since the early, this is a long history. I wrote about this history in my most recent book called Fast Food Genocide. So Eat to Live is not my most recent book. My most recent book is Fast Food Genocide, which tracks the history of the food, the history of food in America, how pellagra around after the Civil War and niacin deficiencies from the diet of being high in corn and pork and molasses created suicidal and homicidal and violent behavior, and exacerbated with the Jim Crow laws, exacerbated lynchings and violence against blacks because it made you mentally volatile. And so nutrition played a role back then in having people in causing mental illness in people. Pellagra caused a red necklace or a causal necklace, which was a dermatitis on the neck. The original of the term rednecks was violent whites attacking blacks back in the Civil War. And then we drove black Americans were doing well economically and health-wise soon after the Civil War, after they were freed after the Civil War. And now it's almost like, and then when they were driven into northern cities and didn't have access to vegetables, so the population doesn't have access to vegetables. And then we have, of course, pellagra was denied as being a nutritional problem for the early part of the 20th century too. I mean, it was denied until even in the early 1900s, they were denying pellagra, where they thought it was genetic. And then we had hookworm was very big in the South. But in any case, finally it was recognized as a nutritional problem, how it can affect the brain. But 100 years ago, we had 1 in 100 Americans who were mentally ill. Now it's 1 in 5 Americans who are mentally ill. With the advent of the World War I and World War II, and the making food that can be sustained on the battlefield, that didn't have to be refrigerated, that could be accessed into the plastic bag, Spam and Twinkies and Tang and all these things, and then the food then becoming the cheapest way to feed large populations in inner cities. We feeding our populations on processed foods, which caused medical conditions, mental difficulties, lowering educational achievement, lowering opportunity, and it's a major form of, how you should say, institutionalized racism, that now that Black Americans have high rates of kidney disease, high blood pressure, prostate cancer, and more diabetes and early life death, it's blamed on them in medical schools and medical institutions as somewhat being genetically weaker, which is absolutely untrue. We see the same difficulties with Caucasian populations eating a bad diet as well. And so I'm saying right now that there's a lot of, you're asking me a question that's very complicated and very intertwined with the history of our country, but we became the innovators in the fast food movement in making processed and fast food. And then we became the innovators in designing foods to be addictive and to get people to want to eat them, even though they destroyed our health. And now eating addictive substances and living on addictive foods have become the major pastime in America, with the vast majority of Americans are food addicts and are eating themselves to a premature death. But we've rapidly spread this concept all over the world. So now we're seeing Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, potato chips, cheese doodles and Fritos and Coke and sodas going now all over the world, which never had happened in 20 years ago. In certain populations that had 1/50th the amount of breast cancer as we had in this country, 1/50th the amount, are now have 1/5 the amount or half the amount, because we're seeing cancer rates skyrocketing in countries that are adopting our fast food nations habits that we developed over the last 40, 30, or 40 years.